A mobility on demand system is a fleet of lightweight electric vehicles that are placed at charging stations or charging points throughout an urban area. The whole model itself is very similar to bicycle share programs. So you have an access card, and so when you need a vehicle, you simply walk to the closest station, swipe an access card, get into the vehicle, and then drive it to another location and drop it off. Once you drop off the vehicle is no longer yours, and others can use that vehicle. It's essentially a shared use system. And the way we've designed the system, we've made it one way, meaning that you can pick up the vehicle from any point and drop it off at any point as well. By doing that, we've created tremendous flexibility and convenience. And we've solved what transportation planners call the last mile, first mile problem, which is how do I get from near my home to the transit station and from the transit station to my final destination. Often these are not co-located. You might have more than a kilometer or more of distance to walk. So most people just drive instead of taking public transit. So by solving that last mile, first mile, we can get people to use more public transit, use more energy efficient vehicles, and really make a system where we're reducing the number of private automobiles on the road, which is the big problem in cities. The beauty of mobility on demand is that we have a complete ecosystem. So each of these stations perhaps will have a car, a bike, a scooter, and perhaps even a regular bicycle, electric bike and regular bike. So the ability to customize the trip to the task at hand is what we're trying to build. So if I'm going to the grocery store, perhaps going to the grocery store I can ride a bicycle or I can walk there. But then coming home, I'd like to take a different vehicle that has greater carrying capacity. Perhaps the electric car makes a lot more sense in this case. By matching the type of trip and with the task at hand, we can actually minimize the amount of energy that you would use and also provide the convenience. This asymmetric type of trip management allows us to move into completely new realms of mobility. In fact, once you combine that with public transit, we can combine all segments of public transit, walking, electric vehicles, motorized transport in general, into a whole new ecosystem. This whole new ecosystem, of course, will require communication. And the advent of smartphones and new applications for smartphones is going to be the linkage, the communication linkage to these new types of systems. I could easily imagine that using your smartphone, you can reserve a vehicle or find out where the closest vehicles are, how much charge they have left, and then, of course, reserve parking to wherever you want to go. And then the smartphone app should actually give you a menu of all the options of how I can go from A to B. And perhaps each one with varying levels of time, distance, energy use, carbon emissions, and cost. And I can make intelligent decisions about how I can go from one place to the next. So when you have a mobility on demand system, you have the problem of redistribution, which is generally vehicles end up in the wrong places. A classic example in bicycle sharing is that bicycles usually at the top of a hill end up at the bottom of the hill. Simply people just don't want to ride up a hill. Or they move from residential areas to business areas. So if you have a very segregated city where you have a downtown district and a residential area some distance away, you're not mixing zoning in those areas, you'll have asymmetric shift of demand. So one area of solving this is to be able to dynamically price or dynamically incentivize movement. The other area is by providing information about where you should drop off a vehicle. By doing a combination of transparency of information along with incentives, by saying, we'll give you a discount if you go to this station versus that one. It's about the same distance. I think there's some elasticity in user behavior that you can begin to modify and use for the greater benefit of the system.